People have started to talk about the 164 slots being an indication of a problem. As I discussed in yesterday's video, if you didn't see it, several of the old characters from Budokai Tenkaichi 3 are likely not to return if 164 characters is the roster size, as we have to take into account Dragon Ball Super and other iconic characters, as well as a bunch of variations would be added into Sparking Zero. Now, as members of the Dragon Ball community, they have done what they typically do. They start to justify things even though I already said these things. I have heard some even call to cut characters like Frieza Soldier, Apul, Kui, and several if not all of the Dragon Ball characters. Heck, I even seen discourse on removing some of the less memorable DBZ movie villains like Willow Garlic Jr. Once again, I recall making videos suggesting characters should get cut or they could get cut, and I mentioned characters and I've talked about Frieza Soldier, Pool, Kui, and now I am hearing people say that same rhetoric all over. Now, however, the community is actually saying something much worse. Dragon Ball GT characters should be cut. I cannot make this up. I've seen several comments to cut GT out of Sparking Zero. Then make GT characters into DLC is another popular thing, or these are shared in unison. People want them to cut GT characters from Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and make them DLC in Sparking Zero, or cut a large portion of those characters and then sell them back as DLC. Now, just to let you guys know, my best moments of playing Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was with GT Goku. And I get when people are like, I don't want them to cut my favorite character, but then look at games like Fighters and Xenoverse. They incorporated GT characters onto the roster, and heck, prior to this, when they weren't giving us GT characters, people wanted to see them. I've seen some discourse even saying FGT, but yet every time they drop DLC characters for them, people go crazy. Why would they sell us DLC characters for GT once more versus just putting them on base roster? Now, assuming this 164 roster number is true, again, I don't believe that. It would mean that characters are being cut. They're gonna cut characters, or they're just gonna sell DLC for new characters. Makes much more sense to sell DLC from Super before any other series. I much rather buy a DLC character if it came from Dragon Ball Super than say Dragon Ball. It would make much more sense to look at Super for DLC characters versus cutting and attempting to resell us characters we got in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. The fact is, no one knows if 164 character roster is a true number, and if it is, we don't know who will be cut and how many variations that are new and returning will join the roster. It makes it a very difficult conversation to have. No one's going to be 100% right, no one's going to be 100% wrong, but I will tell you this. As I said in the past, variations have ruined the roster for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.